The story of how far Ajax have fallen is pretty wild. No doubt you will have seen that they are the worst team in the Champions League currently. Doing a deep dive on them, you'll see that they are stuck in a cyclone of chaos and have been for a good few years now, starting around 2022. Speaking of 2022, that was the last time they won a major trophy. For a club of their stature, that will mean 3 full years without any silverware of any kind, which is pretty unbecoming of the Eredivisie record holders. And it doesn't look like they'll take the title this year either. They're already in 5th place, 14 points behind the leaders PSV. Basically, a miracle is needed, a drastic increase in Ajax's quality, as well as a drastic decrease in PSV's with 20 matches to go. Assuming they don't win the Eredivisie this year, that would be 4 seasons without a win. By the way, guys, quick interjection here. The World Cup group stage draw is on Friday, and I'll be hosting a live reaction / watch-along show for BR Football live from New York on their YouTube channel. The draw starts at 12 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. UK time, so join me, get in the chat, let's talk World Cup. Okay, now looking back on Ajax's recent history, the longest they've gone without an Eredivisie title is 6 years, and it's not like this is a historic low. Football plays out in cycles, right? When Ten Hag won the KNVB Cup with Ajax in 2019, that was their first major trophy in 5 years, and they went on to be dominant for a few years in the Netherlands, only for things to, well, completely fall apart. Like anything, the reason for this is multifaceted, with the most obvious of the bunch being that there was just so much change at the club. You had Ten Hag leaving for Manchester United and taking with him 2 integral players to Ajax's success, Antony and Lisandro Martinez. But on top of that, Sebastian Haller was sold to Borussia Dortmund. He'd scored 34 goals in 43 appearances for Ajax in the 21-22 season. Ryan Gravenberch moved to Bayern Munich with Noussair Mazraoui moving with him. Onana went to Inter. I mean, there was a lot of movement. So not only did you lose your coach, but a lot of important players as well. Alfred Schreuder came in as Ten Hag's replacement, fresh off of winning the Belgian League with Club Brugge, but he didn't last beyond January of that 22-23 season. 26 matches with an average of 1.65 points, not good enough for Ajax. They were sitting in 5th in the Eredivisie, familiar now, winless in 7 matches. That's when Johnny Heitinga took over, the guy who was sacked by Ajax this season as well in his second stint, but more on him later. Because before we continue on there's another huge disruption that occurred for Ajax in 2022. Along with losing Ten Hag and those players mentioned, in February of that year, so before the season had ended, Mark Overmars resigned from his position after admitting he had sent some inappropriate pictures to fellow employees at the club. Some Dick Advocat pics, but minus the advocate, you know? Truly shameful stuff from him. And it wasn't on just one occasion either. Overmars and Van der Sar had sort of risen through the ranks together at Ajax. Van der Sar joined in 2012 as the director of marketing, but was elevated to the CEO of Ajax in 2016. Overmars was a youth coach at Ajax in 2011, but was elevated to technical director of football, in 2012. He was in charge of youth development at the club, transfers, contracts, and scouting. Despite the shameful end to his role at Ajax, the work that Overmars had done on the football side was very impressive. Under his supervision, the academy began churning out talents that were eventually good enough to start for the first team. Frenkie de Jong, Matthijs de Ligt, Donny van de Beek, Serginho Dest as well. He had built up a great scouting network in Central and South America that had brought the club fantastic players such as Lisandro Martinez, Antony, Edson Alvarez, Nicolas Tagliafico, but he scoured the untapped markets in Europe as well to dig up players like Mohamed Kudus from Norway, or even closer to home, Hakim Ziyech. Many of the players mentioned were sold by Ajax at a great profit, including those academy players. With the influence of Overmars in the club growing and plans being set in motion to continue this growth, Ajax made the Europa League final in 2017. They lost to United, but it was their first European final in 31 years. Moving in the right direction, right? On top of that, during the aforementioned trophy slump, Overmars appointed Ten Hag, a masterstroke as Ten Hag delivered 3 league titles and 2 cups in 4 seasons, but also guided Ajax to the Champions League semi-finals during that 2018-19 season. Now, of course, it's impossible to know whether Overmars would have been able to continue success at Ajax following Ten Hag's exit to Manchester, but the overall feeling is that with him as the director of football and with Van der Sar as the CEO, Ajax were in good hands. They were a good duo. But with Overmars leaving, Van der Sar started catching some heat as he was absolutely overextended. Ajax didn't have a director of football or a technical director for over a year, and so in the summer of 2022, Van der Sar and a few other relatively inexperienced Ajax people were in charge of transfers, and that speaks to a lot of the decisions that were made in the market of the summer of 2022. So with the chaos of the 22-23 season, without a director of football all along, Van der Sar was completely worn out and left his post as CEO at the end of the season. Before he left, however, he was central to the appointment of Sven Mislintat as the new technical director in April of 2023, the first foreigner to hold that position at Ajax. Now, Mislintat had mainly been a scout prior to this, making a name for himself at Borussia Dortmund, of course. He also spent some time at Arsenal, but his time there was largely unsuccessful. His time at Ajax nearly broke the club, however, not to mention some of the shady business that occurred. One of the players he purchased, Borna Sosa, was represented by a German agency who has shares in a private company that Mislintat is the majority shareholder of, that company being Matchmetrics. But beyond that, Mislintat bought 12 players in the 2023 transfer market, of which only 3 of them are in Ajax's squad for this season. 4 players are on loan, while 4 of the 5 Mislintat signings that have since been sold by the club were sold at a loss. The other, they broke even on. So these signings didn't even appreciate in value. Tahirovic was sold at a loss, as was Mikotadze, Borna Sosa, Carlos Forbes. But beyond these transfers not playing out in the long run, Mislintat was fired before he would even find out how they did. He was hired in April and sacked in September. He lasted about 4 and a bit months before he was gone. But what he did that summer has left a lasting effect on Ajax. He apparently acted on his own without anyone questioning his transfer market moves. He was allowed to do as he pleased. Borna Sosa and Sutalo's transfers were pushed over the line without the rest of the Ajax board knowing much about them. Not to mention, his choice of Maurice Stijn saw Ajax have their worst start to a season since 1964. And the thing is, Ajax were warned about Mislintat's individualist approach to working as a sporting director, which he also did at Stuttgart. Many of the players that he went ahead and signed ended up not being good enough for Stuttgart in the Bundesliga and were loaned out to lower division teams. And so that was the big problem at Ajax. Mislintat was given free rein without Van der Sar there, while the supervisory board didn't have enough football experience, not as much as Edwin had, and so trust was put in Mislintat to do as he pleases. Maurice Stijn didn't have any influence either. Mislintat worked alone, unchecked. Stijn apparently took issue with the signings, as they were mostly young, inexperienced players from clubs that were mostly much smaller than Ajax, and these guys wouldn't understand the pressure of playing for a big club like Ajax, and Stijn wasn't wrong. I think the overall feeling with Mislintat was that he does have an eye for talent, but he needed someone like a Van der Sar to keep him in check and to help make decisions on signings. But since Van der Sar resigned unexpectedly in May of 2023, I mean, he had a contract until 2025 after all, that left Mislintat to do as he pleased without a CEO to answer to. Alex Kroes would take over in March of 2024, so Ajax have a new CEO again. And he has a different background to Edwin van der Sar, as Kroes is an entrepreneur, someone who has a master's degree in business economics. That said, he does have a connection to football. He played youth football for Ajax, actually. Never made it to the first team. He also was a football agency owner for some time, with his agency representing players like Robin van Persie and Memphis Depay. He's since sold that agency and isn't involved, but they're still huge. I mean, Gakpo, Højlund, Stefanos Zimas, and many more are part of that agency. Kroos' time with Ajax hasn't been plain sailing either, though, as he was suspended by the club for buying 17,000 shares in Ajax a week before it was announced that he would be the CEO. Not good. He would be moved to director of football or technical director instead of CEO, and his mission was to essentially rebuild the squad and the finances to a certain extent too. His choice of Francesco Ferraioli was a solid one for the 24-25 season. He was impressing at Nice, and since Ajax has impressed at FC Porto. But with Ajax, he didn't impress a lot of the pundits and, Ajax people in the media due to his more conservative style of football. It was proving effective. I mean, Ajax just needed 7 points from 5 matches to finish the season as champions. However, they failed to do so, and Ferraioli decided to leave the club at the end of the season, saying, quote, "The management and I have the same goals for Ajax, but we have different visions and timeframes on how we should operate to achieve them. That's why I feel that this is the best time for us to part ways." It's alleged that Kroes and the club wanted him to play more attacking football, while he claimed he didn't have the squad or quality to do so, really. And if you were to ask Ajax supporters, they'd say that he was correct, mostly. There were times where supporters also felt that he played far more defensively than he needed to, and that ultimately cost them the league. But he got them back into the Champions League. Regardless, Kroes spoke of how he was extremely disappointed with Ferraioli's decision, and that they would have another very busy summer, the summer of 2025. And this was a summer that ultimately cost Alex Kroes his job. Not only were Ajax supporters relatively unhappy with the arrivals and departures, but the appointment of Johnny Heitinga was seen as thinking inside the box. Some were happy since he is so loved, but others felt it was an unambitious signing, not a signing that would turn the club's fortunes around. Kroes himself said that his future was tied to Heitinga's success or failure, and guess what? With Heitinga sacked in November, Kroes also left his position as technical director. And so once again, Ajax still don't have a permanent CEO, just an interim, and they don't have a technical director either, while they are struggling in the Eredivisie and are the worst of the 36 teams in the Champions League. It's rumored that they approached Overmars, who is with Antwerp at the moment, but Overmars wasn't interested in a return. It's rumored they approached Ten Hag, but right now, he's not interested in a return. And so that's where they're at. Sad to see, but it's just a constant, well, as I said before, cyclone of chaos that takes grip of Ajax. The downfall started with Overmars and Ten Hag leaving and was greatly exacerbated by Mislintat's decisions that continue to haunt the club to where they are now. Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry, I am sick, so my voice is hurting a bit, but I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you all soon. Take care.